breaking 7 words just destroyed a career. Britain's Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy compared Nigel Farage to the Hitler Youth on camera. And what happened in the next 48 hours will change British politics forever. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This was deliberate. A calculated attack broadcast to millions. The kind of accusation that ends careers. The kind you can't walk back. In Britain, you don't invoke Hitler casually. It's the nuclear option. Once you drop it, there's no return. It damages the memory of those who suffered under fascism. And politically, it's complete self-destruction. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. Within 48 hours, Lammy was forced into a humiliating backtrack. He admitted he had zero evidence. And then the Prime Minister himself was cornered into publicly stating that Nigel Farage isn't racist. If you want the full story, the establishment is trying to bury, hit subscribe right now, because what you're about to witness isn't just a political scandal. It's the moment Labour's entire strategy collapsed in real time. Let's go back to where this explosion started. A fairly standard press briefing. Cameras rolling, journalists packed in, the usual Westminster setup. Then came the question, direct, unavoidable. Do you think Nigel Farage is a racist? Most politicians recognize the trap instantly. They dodge. They spend a few minutes talking about respecting different opinions. They pivot gently to policy. They avoid personal attacks. David Lammy didn't do that. He charged straight through. He declared that Nigel Farage had once flirted with the ideas of the Hitler Youth when he was at school. Yes, you heard that correctly. A comparison to the Nazis from the Deputy Prime Minister on camera, recorded, broadcast everywhere. The reaction was instant. Social media ignited within minutes. Twitter, or X, went into complete meltdown. Even journalists who aren't remotely sympathetic to Farage stopped and asked, did he really just say that? Because you cannot casually invoke Hitler or Nazi Germany in British political debate. It's not just offensive, it's political suicide. Once you make that comparison, you cannot take it back. But here's what made this even more remarkable. Farage's reaction. He stayed perfectly calm, dismissed the remark as ridiculous, carried on as usual because Farage understands something fundamental about modern politics. Every time the establishment attacks him personally, instead of his ideas, he becomes stronger. Each time Labour, the mainstream press, or the Westminster elite try to tear him down with character attacks, they prove his central argument, that the political class is afraid, that they've run out of convincing ideas, that they're so desperate, they resort to the lowest possible smears. And millions of British voters can see it. They see the panic, they see the confusion, and they ask themselves, if Farage is so wrong, why can't any of his critics defeat him in a fair argument? Why do they keep resorting to character assassination instead of policy debate? But the real story isn't just the attack itself. It's what happened over the next 48 hours. And this is where things get truly shocking. David Lammy was dragged back in front of the cameras, and what people witnessed was a complete transformation. The usual swagger was gone. The tough tone disappeared. The moral certainty evaporated. In its place stood a man who had just realized he'd stepped on a political landmine, a politician in full defensive mode. Anxious body language, a voice heavy with fear. He said, and this is a direct quote, that Farage had denied the claim, and that he respected Farage's denial, that he wanted to clarify his position. Clarify. That's the survival word in Westminster. The word you use when you've made a catastrophic mistake and you're scrambling to undo it before your political career is buried completely. And then came the admission, the sort of admission that can end a political career. Lammy confessed He hadn't gone to school with Farage. In fact, he had no idea what songs Farage had sung as a teenager. He couldn't verify any of it. Hold on. We need to pause here to truly grasp what just happened. He had gone on camera and accused someone of sympathizing with fascist ideology, invoked the Hitler Youth, one of the darkest chapters in human history. And what was his evidence? A school rumor he couldn't verify, something he vaguely thought he'd read somewhere decades ago. This is the Deputy Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the second most powerful man in the country, and he casually admitted that he had made one of the most serious accusations imaginable with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. The arrogance of that is staggering. The recklessness is frightening. But the moment he retreated will go down in history because straight afterwards, everything changed. A major turning point. A moment that will almost certainly appear in Reform UK campaign videos for years to come. Starmer himself could not escape. The Prime Minister, the leader of Labour, the man desperately trying to keep the circus tent from collapsing, he was asked directly, "Is Nigel Farage a racist?" And Starmer's answer will haunt Labour for many years. He said, "No, I do not believe Nigel Farage is a racist. I also do not believe the people who vote for reform are racist. They are worried about our borders." Let's pause again to absorb this properly. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has just publicly stated that Nigel Farage is not a racist, and neither are millions of reform voters. They are simply concerned about immigration. After months of Labour MPs branding reform a threat, after years of sneering at working-class voters as if they were mindless extremists, after endless media appearances where they hinted or outright declared that anyone who questioned immigration was harbouring hatred, the Prime Minister finally stood up and said clearly, "These people are not racists. They're worried about immigration." That moment marked a profound shift in British politics. The moment the mask slipped, Labour was forced to acknowledge what millions of voters had known for years, that branding people racist was just a tactic, a way to silence them, a way to dodge difficult questions about immigration policy. And now they said it on camera. From now until Election Day, every Reform UK campaign ad will show that